A stray dog dragged a biker out of a burning garage. The German Shepherd mix had teeth clamped on Marcus Steele Rodriguez's leather vest. The dog pulled with desperate strength while flames roared behind them. Orange and yellow fire licked up the walls. Black smoke rolled across the ceiling, heat so intense it felt like standing next to an open furnace. Steele's lungs burned with smoke. His vision blurred. The edges of his consciousness started going dark. But the dog wouldn't let go, wouldn't stop pulling, wouldn't leave him behind. Steele had stopped at this abandoned property on Route 47 to check his bike's engine around 2 in the afternoon. Something felt off. A rattle in the motor that hadn't been there that morning. A vibration that set his teeth on edge. He'd pulled into what looked like an old gas station property. Boarded-up building with graffiti covering the walls. Weeds everywhere, shoulder-high in some places. But there was a garage with the door hanging open. Good place to do quick maintenance away from traffic. Away from the summer heat beating down on the asphalt. He'd been under his Harley for maybe 10 minutes when he smelled gasoline. Not from his bike, from somewhere else. Strong, fresh, like someone had just poured it. He'd rolled out from under the motorcycle, and that's when he saw it. Flames spreading across the garage floor. Someone had poured accelerant everywhere, in a deliberate pattern, leading from the back of the garage toward the entrance. The fire moved fast, too hot, too controlled. This wasn't an accident. This was intentional. This was arson. Steele tried to run, but smoke filled the space faster than he expected. He stumbled, fell. His head hit concrete. Everything spun. He tried to get up. Couldn't find his balance. Smoke inhalation was pulling him under. That's when the dog appeared. A German Shepherd mix. Skinny, dirty, collar with no tags. The dog grabbed Steele's vest and started pulling, dragging him toward the door. Steele tried to help, tried to crawl, but mostly the dog did the work. 60 pounds of determined canine dragging a 210-pound man across a burning garage floor. They made it outside. Steele collapsed on the gravel. The dog barked. Sharp. Urgent. Not at Steele, at the garage. The dog ran back toward the flames. "No," Steele coughed. "Get back here." The dog ignored him, ran into the smoke, disappeared. Steele forced himself to stand. His head pounded, his lungs screamed. But that dog had just saved his life. He wasn't letting it die in there. He grabbed his leather jacket from where he'd set it on his bike, soaked it with water from his bottle, wrapped it around his face, and went back in. The smoke was thicker now. Flames had spread to the walls. But he could hear the dog, barking from somewhere deep in the garage. Not at the entrance, somewhere else, somewhere further back. Steele followed the sound through visibility that had dropped to almost nothing. Found the dog at the back corner scratching desperately at something. A door. A door built into the corner of the garage. Painted the same industrial gray color as the walls. No handle. No obvious hinges. Almost invisible if you weren't looking for it. Someone had wanted this door hidden. Someone had gone to significant effort to make sure nobody found it. Steele never would have seen it without the dog. The dog barked again, sharp and desperate and urgent. Steele tried the seam where the door met the wall. His fingers found an edge, a recessed handle. He pulled, locked, deadbolt from the outside. He could hear something on the other side now. More clearly, a sound, like someone trying to move, like someone breathing hard, like someone crying. "Hello?" Steele shouted over the roar of flames. "Is someone in there?" A voice, weak, female, hoarse from screaming that nobody had heard. "Help, please. God, please, help me. I'm locked in. I can't get out, please." Steele looked around desperately, found a crowbar hanging on the wall in the burning garage despite the smoke. Used it on the lock. Pried, hard, pulled with all his remaining strength. The doorframe splintered from the heat and pressure. The door gave way. Inside was a small room, 8 feet by 8 feet. No windows, No light except what came through the door, and huddled in the corner was a woman. Maybe 30 years old. Dirty clothes, bruises on her face and arms, zip-tied wrists, duct tape residue around her mouth. Her name was Rachel Morrison. She'd been locked in that room for 6 days. Steele cut the zip ties with a knife from his pocket. "Can you walk?" Rachel nodded. She was weak, dehydrated, but determined. Steele helped her up. The dog led the way out. They made it outside just as the garage roof started to collapse. Steele called 911. Rachel collapsed on the gravel next to him. The dog sat between them, guarding them both. "He locked me in there," Rachel whispered. "My ex-boyfriend, Derek Vance. He found out I was leaving him, that I'd called a domestic violence shelter. He drugged me, brought me here, said nobody would find me, said when he was ready he'd come back and kill me, make it look like an accident." "He started the fire," Steele said. It wasn't a question. "He must have. I heard a car about 30 minutes ago. Heard someone moving around out here. Then I smelled smoke. I screamed, pounded on the door. Nobody came. I thought I was going to die in there." The dog licked Rachel's hand. She started crying. "This dog saved my life. You both did." Sirens approached. Fire trucks, police, ambulances. The garage was fully engulfed now. If they'd been in there 2 more minutes, they all would have died. The fire chief examined what was left of the structure. "Arson," he said within 15 minutes. "Accelerant poured everywhere. Someone wanted this place to burn fast and hot." The police took Rachel's statement. Derek Vance, 34 years old, Rachel's ex-boyfriend. She'd been trying to leave him for 2 months. He'd been escalating. Threats, stalking, breaking into her apartment. She'd finally called the domestic violence hotline 2 weeks ago. Derek must have found out. He'd shown up at her apartment 6 days ago. She'd let him in to talk. "Stupidest decision of her life," she said. He'd put something in her water. She'd woken up in that locked room. Vance had visited 3 times, brought minimal food and water, told her he was deciding when to kill her, told her nobody would find her body. This property had been abandoned for years. "Why didn't he just—" the detective started. "Kill me immediately?" Rachel finished. "He liked the power, liked me being scared, liked knowing I was helpless. He's sick. He's always been sick. I just didn't see it until it was too late." The detective put out a statewide alert for Derek Vance. His apartment was empty. His car was gone, but his phone location was still active. Police tracked it to a motel 40 miles away. If you believe bikers are the good people, hit that like and subscribe button. They found Vance in room 12 at the Riverside Motel. He was packing, getting ready to run. Police kicked in the door before he could leave. Found a burner phone on the nightstand. Recent calls to a number that turned out to be a contact named Marcus. Police called the number. A man answered, nervous, scared when he heard it was police. His name was Marcus Delgado. He ran a used car dealership, and Derek Vance had been blackmailing him for 6 months. Delgado told police everything. 6 months ago, Vance had been at Delgado's dealership buying a car. He'd seen Delgado's office computer screen, saw files Delgado shouldn't have had, stolen customer information, social security numbers, credit reports pulled without permission. Delgado had been running a credit fraud scheme for 2 years. Vance photographed everything. Then he made Delgado an offer. Pay him $5,000 a month or he'd go to the police. Delgado paid, every month, for 6 months. But that's not why Vance had called Marcus that day. He'd called to ask for a favor, needed Delgado to help him burn down a garage, said there was evidence inside that could incriminate them both. Delgado was terrified. Vance had implied he'd been using stolen identities to rent the property where he'd been keeping Rachel. Delgado said no, told Vance he wanted out. Vance threatened to expose the credit fraud. Delgado panicked, agreed to help. That morning, Delgado met Vance at the property. They'd poured gasoline everywhere, lit it. Delgado didn't know Rachel was inside, didn't know Steele was in there working on his bike. He'd just been terrified of going to prison. Now he was going to prison anyway. For arson, for being an accessory to attempted murder, for the credit fraud scheme that had victimized 47 people over 2 years. The police investigation expanded fast. Vance's phone records showed calls to 3 other numbers over the past 6 months. 3 other men he'd been blackmailing with secrets he'd discovered. Each one had something to hide. Each one was paying Vance to keep quiet. A dentist who'd been writing fraudulent prescriptions, a lawyer who'd been embezzling from client trust accounts, an accountant who'd been helping small businesses evade taxes. Vance had evidence on all of them. He'd been collecting $5,000 per month from each, $60,000 a year in blackmail income, tax-free, off the books. But the darkest discovery came when police searched the abandoned property more thoroughly after the fire was extinguished. The garage was completely destroyed. Nothing but ash and twisted metal and concrete foundation remained. But there were other buildings on the 5-acre property. An old office with broken windows, a storage shed with a rusted roof. And in that storage shed, police found chains bolted to the wall. Heavy industrial chains. A stained mattress on the floor. Empty water bottles scattered everywhere. Food wrappers. Protein. Bar packaging. Evidence that Rachel hadn't been the first person locked up on this property. Evidence that Vance had been using this location for years. Police brought in forensics teams, cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar. They searched every inch of that property. And in the wooded area behind the buildings, they found 3 shallow graves. 3 bodies. All women. All between ages 25 and 35. All had been missing for between 8 months and 3 years. One was identified as Michelle Parker. Missing for 2 years. Last seen leaving her ex-boyfriend's house. Her ex-boyfriend's name, Derek Vance. The second victim was Amber Chen. Missing 18 months. She'd filed a restraining order against Derek Vance 3 months before she disappeared. The restraining order had been approved. Vance had been ordered to stay away. Amber was never seen again. The third victim was Sarah Martinez. Missing 8 months. Her family reported she'd been dating someone new. A man named Derek. She'd stopped returning their calls. They'd filed a missing person report. Police investigated briefly. Found nothing. Case went cold. Derek Vance had been killing the women who tried to leave him for at least 3 years. He'd been using this abandoned property as his personal prison and graveyard. Rachel Morrison was supposed to be victim number 4. The FBI took over the investigation. They found more. Vance had a pattern. He targeted women who were isolated, single, no close family nearby, women who wouldn't be missed immediately. He'd charm them, date them. Then when they tried to leave, he'd drug them, lock them up, keep them for days or weeks, then kill them and bury them. His phone records showed he'd been researching how to dispose of bodies, how to avoid forensic detection, how to create alibis. He'd been planning this for years, getting better at it, more careful, more calculated. Rachel Morrison had survived because of 2 things: a stray dog and a biker who happened to stop at the wrong place at the right time. Steele visited Rachel in the hospital the next day. She was dehydrated, malnourished, covered in bruises, but alive. The doctor said she'd make a full physical recovery. The psychological recovery would take longer. "Thank you," Rachel said. "You saved my life." "The dog saved us both," Steele corrected. "Where is he?" Animal control had taken the dog. Standard procedure. No collar tags, no chip. They'd hold him for 7 days to see if an owner claimed him. If nobody came forward, he'd go up for adoption. Steele visited the shelter that afternoon. The dog was in a kennel. Thin. Scars on his body suggesting previous abuse. But his tail wagged when he saw Steele. The attendant said nobody had claimed him. He'd probably been dumped, maybe abused by a previous owner. Definitely hadn't been fed regularly in weeks. "I'll take him," Steele said. "Adoption isn't for 7 days." "Then I'll wait 7 days. But I'm taking him. This dog saved my life. He saved Rachel Morrison's life. He found her when nobody else could. He's not going to just another shelter. He's coming home with me." 7 days later, Steele adopted the dog. Named him Ranger, because he'd been on patrol that day. Guarding territory nobody else was watching. Finding someone nobody else knew was missing. Derek Vance's trial lasted 3 weeks in federal court. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, kidnapping, arson, conspiracy to commit arson, 47 counts related to the credit fraud blackmail scheme. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, phone records, GPS data, forensic evidence from the graves, Rachel's testimony, the testimonies of the families of 3 murdered women. The defense tried to argue diminished capacity, childhood trauma, mental illness. The jury didn't buy it. Derek Vance had been methodical, calculated. He'd researched how to dispose of bodies. He'd chosen victims carefully. He'd created alibis. This wasn't mental illness. This was evil. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, found him guilty on all counts, every single charge. 48 guilty verdicts. The families of the victims wept in relief. The judge sentenced him to 3 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole, then added 60 additional years for the other charges. Derek Vance, age 34 at sentencing, would die in prison. The judge made sure of it. Made sure there would be no parole hearings, no chances for early release, no possibility of redemption. Rachel Morrison testified at the trial. She described 6 days locked in darkness, minimal food and water. Derek visiting to tell her all the ways he planned to kill her. The terror of smelling smoke and knowing nobody would find her. The miracle of hearing a dog barking on the other side of that door. "That dog knew I was there," Rachel said. "He came back into a burning building to save me, and Steele came back for both of us. They didn't know me. They had no reason to risk their lives, but they did it anyway. That's what heroes do." Marcus Delgado pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit arson and 47 counts of credit fraud. He received 8 years in federal prison. The 3 other men Vance had been blackmailing received sentences ranging from 3 to 6 years for their various crimes. 5 years later, Rachel Morrison is 35 years old. She's alive, she's thriving, she's stronger than she ever thought possible. She runs a nonprofit organization called Second Chance Survival that helps domestic violence victims escape dangerous situations safely. She speaks at shelters and police departments and community centers about recognizing escalating abuse, about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong, about understanding that leaving an abusive partner is the most dangerous time. That's when abusers often escalate to lethal violence. That's when women need the most protection. That's when having a safety plan matters most. She has a service dog now, a golden retriever named Hope. But she visits Ranger often. Steele brings him to Rachel's nonprofit events twice a month. Ranger is famous in domestic violence advocacy circles. The dog who saved 2 lives from a burning building. The dog who wouldn't give up when giving up would have been easier. The dog who knew someone needed help when nobody else did. People come to events just to meet him, to pet him, to take pictures. Ranger accepts the attention calmly, like he knows he's special but doesn't need to brag about it. Steele is 63 years old now. He still rides with the Highwaymen Motorcycle Club every weekend. He and Ranger are completely inseparable. The dog rides in a specially designed cushioned sidecar attached to Steele's Harley-Davidson. They do charity rides for domestic violence organizations. They visit shelters. They show up at trials to support survivors who are testifying against their abusers. Steele partnered with Rachel's nonprofit to create the Ranger Protocol. teaching people to recognize signs that someone might be held captive. Unusual activity at abandoned properties. Sounds that don't make sense. Dogs acting strangely persistent. In 3 years, the Ranger Protocol has led to the discovery of 2 other women being held against their will. The families of Michelle Parker, Amber Chen, and Sarah Martinez finally got closure. They buried their daughters, sisters, and mothers properly. They know what happened. They know who's responsible. They know he'll never hurt anyone else. Michelle's mother started attending Rachel's support groups. 2 women connected by tragedy, 1 who survived, 3 who didn't. Together they ensure Derek Vance's victims are remembered as people, not statistics. Derek Vance is in federal prison in Texas. He's been attacked twice by other inmates. Once someone threw boiling water on him. Another time 3 inmates broke his jaw. Prison has a code. Men who hurt women are below even other criminals. Vance lives in constant fear now. The way his victims did. The way Rachel did for 6 days in that locked room. The abandoned property was demolished. The city purchased the land. They built a memorial park. 3 trees planted, 1 for Michelle, 1 for Amber, 1 for Sarah. A plaque that says, "Remembered and missed." Rachel goes there sometimes, sits under the trees, thinks about how close she came to being the 4th tree. Animal control changed their policies after Ranger's story went public. Now they look more carefully at dogs showing unusual behavior. Dogs that seem to be trying to lead people somewhere. Dogs that won't leave certain areas. 3 times in 5 years, animal control followed persistent dogs and found people in need. An elderly man who'd fallen. A child who wandered away. A teenager who'd run from an abusive home and was hiding in an abandoned building. Dogs know things. They sense things. They don't give up. Ranger proved that. He was a stray, probably dumped, probably abused. No reason to trust humans. But when he smelled smoke and heard someone choking on fumes, he didn't run. He went in, pulled Steele out, then went back for Rachel. The day Steele officially adopted Ranger, he took him to Rachel's hospital room. Rachel cried, hugged the dog, whispered thank you over and over. Ranger licked her face, gentle, protective, like he understood. Steele says Ranger saved him twice that day, once by dragging him from the fire, once by giving him purpose. Steele had been a biker for 40 years. He'd helped people before. But Ranger showed him what real courage looked like, what real loyalty meant. A starving, stray dog risking his life for strangers. People ask me why I ride, Steele says at nonprofit events. I ride because the road connects us. That day, the road brought me to an abandoned property at the exact moment Rachel needed help. The road brought Ranger to us both. Some people call it luck. I call it meant to be. 3 lives saved because a dog wouldn't give up and a biker didn't turn away. The Highwayman Motorcycle Club created the Ranger Fund. It supports animal shelters and domestic violence organizations. Every member contributes. Every charity ride donates proceeds. In 5 years, they've raised $200,000. They've helped 47 women escape dangerous situations. They've helped 12 dogs find homes after being used as therapy animals in abuse recovery programs. Sometimes the scariest-looking people are the safest ones to trust. Sometimes a starving stray dog is braver than any trained rescue animal. Sometimes being in the wrong place at the wrong time is actually being in the right place when it matters most. Rachel Morrison knows. Steele knows. Ranger knows. And now 3 families who buried their daughters know that the 4th victim survived. That Derek Vance's pattern was broken. That sometimes miracles come covered in smoke and fur. Like and subscribe for more stories.